Khusro and other Persian poets of India. So he's going to read to us an essay on the life and works of of Amir Khusro and his Persian poetry. Animesh, thank you.
Should we move the table? Can you move the table?
No. Just before I start, I am by no means an expert on him, so whatever I'm going to share with you is by all my research. One thing I can assure you that I am going to entertain you with all my incorrect pronunciation of Farsi words. That you can be sure of. So, his real name, Abul Hasan Jaminuddin Khusro. He was born in 1253 in Patiali. That's in Eta district of Uttar Pradesh, India. That time Patiali was used to call Mominpur or Mominabad. His father, Amin Saifuddin Mahmud, was an officer with the Turkic army. After the invasion of Genghis Khan, he fled to India for a shelter. Samsuddin Altamas, the Diran Sultan of India, welcomed him to Delhi and granted him a piece of land as a jagir to rule in Patiali. His mother, Bibi Daulat Naz, she was the daughter of Rawat Arz, the famous war minister of Sultan Balban. She belonged to Hindi Rajput tribes of Uttar Pradesh. Even though her mother was a converted Muslim, she still used to practice all the Hindu rituals in her home. So, starting from the childhood, Khusro got a mixed tradition of India and Iran and Turkey together in his own family. He used to call himself Turk-e-Hindustani, the Turk of India. He started creating poems from a very early age. Historian Ziauddin Barni, in his book Tarikh-e-Firoz Shahi, has mentioned that King Jalaluddin Khilji was so impressed by one of Khusro's Farsi poems that he bestowed the title of Amir to Khusro. Amir means the rich. When Khusro was born, his father covered him in a sheet of cloth and took him to a holy man. The holy man took a look in Khusro's eyes and prophesied that this little boy will one day go 2 steps ahead of the world's famous personality at that time, he used to call Khani. He said, again, prepare to be entertained, Awardi ka se rakhe do kadam, aaj khakani pesh khavid bod. He started going to the madrasa from the very early age of 6. All his poetry is written at the tender age, has been published in a book called Diwan-e-Tukht-Sagir, which literally means the gift of the young age. All these poems were written by him when he was between 16 to 19. It is said that his guru, Asaduddin Muhammad, took him to another great literary expert, Khwaja Izazuddin. Khusro's guru, Azauddin, praised Khusro in front of Khwaja Azauddin and requested him to take a test of Khusro. Khwaja gave Khusro 4 unrelated words. Mu, as in hair, Beige, as an egg, Tir, as an arrow, and Kharpuza, as watermelon, and asked Khusro to use them in the same poem. And he came up with a beautiful Farsi rubai which says, Har mu'e ki dar zulf an sanam ast, sad baize amri bar an mu'e zlam ast, chunte mada rast dil shara zira, chu kharpuza dadash miyane shikham ast. How bad it was? Okay, I got it.
I didn't get it.
Okay. Well, the meaning says, and I found it says that the string that weaves the hair of the beloved is so beautiful that it has the fragrance of the 100 amberfish eggs. Don't take the heart of that beauty as straight as an arrow. It has pointed teeth like the cantaloupes hidden in them. But I was so impressed by this poem that he blessed him and told him that his pen name should be Sultani, like an emperor, not just Amir as a rich. And following that, his first book, Tukht-Sagir, his pen name Sultani has been used in most of the maqtas of the ghazal. You know, when we write the ghazal, the last sher has the name of that's called the maqta. So he used Sultani at that time. Sufism, we were just hearing about the Sufism. The concept of Sufism was not very new to India. I mean, we had the similar concept in the Vaishnava religion also. The basic fundamental thing about the Sufism is thinking God as your own beloved. It's like you're worshipping God as if he or she, him, is like your lover.
Yes.
That concept is still there in Vaishnava religion. I mean, they consider Krishna as their beloved person. But one of the important things about the Sufism is that you have to have a peer or a guru. And that peer has to have the knowledge from his peer, who must have got the knowledge from his peer, with the direct succession starting from Muhammad. That's one of the important things. It's said that when Khusro was 8 years old, he was taken to the Khanaka of Nizamuddin Auliya, and he wanted to test him out. So he didn't enter into the Khanaka immediately. He sat on the stairs and thought of a poem in his mind. The poem was, Tu aan sahi ke bar awan kasrat, kabutar gar nashinat baz gardat, gharim mustamand baad der amin, be'ayad adarum abaz gardat. If you are a king at the gate of whose palace, even a pigeon becomes a hawk. A poor traveler has come to your gate. Should he enter or should he return? It is said that Nizamuddin Auliya once asked one of his servants to go out to the gate and narrate the following lines to the boy who was sitting there. It says, and I'm just going to read the English part of it.
Do you have the Persian part in Persia?
No, I haven't.
No.
If it's in
Cannot
English, I
read
would
it,
even. It's in Roman script.
Oh.
So the poem says, oh, you are the man of the reality, come inside. So you can become for a while my confidant. But if you are the one who enters is foolish, then he should return the way he has come. Hearing this, Khusro decided that he has come to the right place and entered. And after returning to home, he was so happy that he started humming and dancing at the same time and composed a poem. And that poem is still sung in some parts of India during the holy season. I mean, the holy, we have the festival of the colors. It says, Aaj rang hai mere rang hai ri, more mehboob aaye ghar hai ri, sajan maliwara, Aaj rang hai ri, mohe piya payo Nizamuddin Auliya. Meaning, what a glow everywhere I see, what a glow. I have found the beloved. In my courtyard, I have found my peer, Nizamuddin Auliya. He has spent 72 years of his life between war and peace, between creation and destruction of cities and population. He traveled extensively in various parts of India with and without the company of the royal army. Wherever he went, he captured the local style, essence, and the dialect of that region and blended them into poetry. He created his poetry in a time of political turmoil where religion confined the thinking. His poem went beyond the boundaries of narrow religious teaching and taught the secularism and unity between Hindus and Muslims. After spending 4 years of his life in Multan, he blended the Arabic tune of Bedouins with the folk tunes of Punjab and the Sindh provinces. Iran has not accepted, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is all based on the information that I gathered, it says that Iran has not accepted many of the Indian Farsi scholars in their literatures. Even Mir Ghalib is not very much accepted in Iranian literature. But Amir Khusro's poetry has not only been accepted, but has been revered and venerated in the Iranian literature. He has written around 4.5 million shares in Farsi. Share is a couplet, 2 lines. 4.5 million. Although most of them are lost or not recorded properly, it says 1/4 of them is still very much well preserved. Amir Khusro is considered to be the first poet of Urdu and Hindi. Before Khusro, the colloquial language used in the northern part of India was called Kharipuri, the Braj Bhasha. Khusro blended these two languages with the formal Farsi and created a new form of language popularly known as Hindi, which gave birth to Hindi and Urdu later on. It is said that no poet has ever been a better historian than him, and no historian has ever been a better poet than him. Along with his poetry, he recorded many of the contemporary events with which the flow of the time has become the historical documents. Apart from being a genius poet and a brilliant historian, he had in-depth knowledge of classical Indian and Farsi music. He blended the Arabic tune with the Indian ragas and created the masterpieces of qawwalis and ghazals, which are still treasured today. Although Khusro was primarily a Farsi writer, he was proud of his Indian origin. In his lifetime, he used to call Tutiye-Hind, the parrot of India, and Shahir-e-Shiri Bayan, which means the king of eloquence. He praised the Indian language above Arabic and Persian and compiled a Persian-Indian dictionary called Khalik-Bri. Okay. What is it? His popularity in India, particularly in Hindi-speaking region, is due to the poems and to the collection of his riddle in this language, he called Hindi. The poems and riddles are in the style of the common man people. Because of his work, Khusro is held to be the first poet of Khari Boli, which is the standard literary style of modern India and the modern Hindi. There have been several collection of poems in the manuscripts published forms of his poems, but the most complete and authentic is one of them by Brajaratna Das, Khusro ki Hindi Kavita. It was published in 1922. That is considered as to be authentic if somebody is doing some research. Mirza Ghalib, whom Urdu poetry considers as their god, he didn't used to praise any other poems in front of him. In fact, there was one occasion where he was in front of Bahadur Shah Zafar and he presented a sher which in fact said that I am the greatest poet present in this mahfil, which offended King Shah Zafar at that time because he himself was a great poet. But even Mirza Ghalib, he revered Khusro's work. He expressed this in one of his sher. He says, Ghalib mere kalam mein kyun kar maza na ho, Ghalib mere kalam mein kyun kar maza na ho, Pita hu dho ke khush hue, Siri sukhan ke paon.
Wow.
Meaning, Ghalib, why would not people enjoy your poems? After all, I have drank the water that has washed Khusro's feet. Mirza Ghalib once said that a poet becomes immortal when his poems are chanted by the beggars, sung by the baijis, and recited in the royal presence. After 700 years today, Khusro's works are still popular both in India and Pakistan. His Hindi songs are still sung when a girl sets off her journey to her in-laws' house. His Sufi qawwalis are still sung by the reputed singers of India and Pakistan. His riddles are still enjoyed by the children in big cities and villages of northern India. People sing his songs without even knowing the name of the creator. They have become a part of India's tradition. So much so that sometime in the place of the writer of the song, only the word traditional is used. Well, it's already. Yeah. The most important grammar followed in the ghazal is the maintenance of the meter. I mean, we listen to ghazals without actually knowing that every line has the same wave and the same variance in the words. At that point of time, Khusro created new form of ghazal by combining the Farsi and the Hindi together in the same line, sometimes in two different lines. But a ghazal with Hindi and the Farsi together. I'll come back to that particular ghazal later, and I'll explain why he did that at that time. That has a very special significance. As I was saying, that he has created like 4.5 million in shades, so it's literally impossible to capture everything. But I'll go through some of his very popular creations that still, one of them is called Keh Mukriya. The word Keh means to say, the Mukriya means to deny. Those are written in Hindi languages. It's the genre of the riddle poetry, and it's written in the form of a conversation between two young women, where one of them describes something in a way that is mistaken by the other girl as her beloved. But when he reveals the meaning of it, it has a completely different meaning. These are called mukriya. I'll give you an example. It says, लिपट लिपट के वाव के सोई, छाती से छाती लगा के रोई, दांत से दांत बजे तो ताड़ा, ऐसा की साजन ना सकी जाड़ा. Meaning, cuddled up in his arms she slept, bosoms pressed against each other, she sobbed. When the teeth started clattering, she saw, was it your beloved? No, my dear, it was winter. Another example is ऊंची अटारी पलंग बिछायो, मैं सोई मेरे सिर पर आयो, खुल गई आंखें भई आनंद, ऐसे की साजन ना सकी चांद. Had my bed on the rooftop and was off to the sleep when he came, could not sleep any further, it was such a pleasure. Was it your beloved? No dear, it was the moon. There's a long list of this. I don't want to read all of them, but you can just search for this word K Mukriya and you can find a lot of them that he has created. These are still sung in the rural parts of India. The double meanings of the poems actually creates a little thrill and suspense, and revealing actually brings a sense of laughter. So it's a perfect poem to enjoy in little occasions. Well, although these types of poems were not conceptually unique, Khusro brought this to the modern Hindi language with a new glamour. Till today, Hindi poets attempt to create this kind of poems for the political satires and humors. You know that the election season is going on in India, and I have come across a lot of poems in this genre where they are trying to describe something and ultimately they say, no, this is this politician. One of the Hindi poets, his name was Babu Bhartendra Harishchandra. He was so influenced by this form of the poetry that he created a huge volume of Mukri poetry based on the modern life of the Khusro's train. One of them was तीन बुलाए तेरा आवे, निज निज विपता रोई सुनावे, आंखें फूटे भरा न पेट, क्यों सकी साजन नहीं graduate. Meaning, you call 3 and 13 will come, crying, they will tell you their problems, always crying and always hungry. Is it the beloved? No, it's the graduates. The second form is the riddles. He has created numerous pahelis. Paheli is a Hindi word that means riddles, which are very popular in India till today. The concept of creating riddles is rhythmic poems was present in ancient Indian literature also. However, most of them were written in Sanskrit and in the cryptic complexity and could only be solved by a learned person. Those were not easily understood by the common people. Khusro's riddles were written in common man's language, without using the complex or hard to understand words. Approximately 286 of his riddles have been registered and attributed to him directly. Some experts consider that Keh Mukriya is another form of classification of riddles, but it's debated. Most of the time it's considered as a form of poetry. You can consider it as a riddle. His riddles are mainly divided in five categories. One is called Bhuj Paheli, already solved riddles. These are literally solved riddles, meaning that the answer is actually hidden in the riddle itself. There is one word in the riddle that basically spells out the answer. Like, एक पुरख है सुंदर मूरत, जो देखे वो उसकी सूरत, फिक्र पहली पाई ना, बूझा लागी आई ना. So the last two words, aina, means mirror. So that's already in the poem, which gives you the answer. The meaning of it is the fellow is beautiful like an idol. Whoever sees him looks like him. Haven't understood the riddle? I'm guessing, but can't figure out. In Hindi, the last two words was aina, where it means mirror. There was another one, it says, पीसों का सर काट लिया, ना मारा ना खून किया. बीसों का सर काट लिया, ना मारा ना खून किया. Meaning, I have beheaded 20 peoples, but I didn't kill anybody or nor shed any blood. It was talking about the nails. Na khoon kiya.
Nice.
That was
Tricky, that was tricky.
There's another form called, the second form of his riddles is called Anbuj Paheli, where the answer is not given in the riddle itself. It's one of them is like Bani rangili sharam ki baat, बेमौसम आई बरसात, यही अचंबा मुझको आए, खुशी के दिन क्यों रोती जाए. Meaning, all dressed up in a colorful but a little shy, but a rain without the season. This is what baffles me. What makes her cry on a very happy day? She was describing a bride all set to go for her in-laws' house. There's another one that says
Would you please read it again, please?
in
In English.
in English.
Yes.
Says all dressed up colorfully, a little shy, but a rain without the season. This is what baffles me. What makes her cry on a happy day?
The wedding day is happy and
Wedding day is
yet
happy.
she's crying because she's leaving from
Yes.
in the house.
We call it as a bitterly sweet day. All parents want their daughter to be sitting in home, so they do their best to get her married, but when she gets married, everybody starts crying.
Girls don't cry in Iran. They're so happy.
Yeah, we are current.
How do you know?
Speaking from a man.
Yeah, from a man's point of view.
Okay, the next guy is Do Sukhna. It's called two-liners. It's a smart form of riddle in which one has to find the answer for two completely different questions. Though the answer could have different meaning in both the questions, the word or words should be same for the both answers. The interesting part is that the answer is not simply a word or noun, it has to be one or two words completing a sentence together. And these are generally asked in whys. One of them is Raja प्यासा क्यों, गधा उदासा क्यों, लोटा ना था. Meaning, why is the king thirsty? Why is the donkey sad? Because they didn't have a pot to drink. The word lota means pot in Hindi. And then the other word is, he didn't rolled in the ground, the donkey. So that's the other word in Hindi. Lota.
It's difficult.
There's another one called घर क्यों अंधियारा, फकीर क्यों बदबड़ाया, दिया ना था. Why the room is dark
Yeah, this is easy.
and why the beggar was crying. The word diya means a lamp in India, in Hindi, and also to give.
Somebody didn't give diya na.
So somebody didn't give him anything, so that's why he was crying, and the room was dark because there was no diya, means lamp. There's another thing called nisbat. The word nisbat means relation.
Yes.
But he would pick two completely different objects, like seemingly uncommon objects, and ask what's the relation between these two.
Those are called similes in
Yeah.
literature.
Yeah. So it says, आदमी और गेहूं में क्या निस्बत है? Like what's the similarity between a man and a wheat plant?
Don't know what thing.
Good one. The answer was bal, hair.
Oh.
Human has hair and the wheat plant has the hair going like that. जानवर और बंदूक में क्या निस्बत है? What's the similarity between a king and what's the relation between a beast and a gun? The answer is horse, which in Hindi is called ghoda. So ghoda is an animal. Also, we used to call the banduk as ghoda, the gun.
It's called ghoda.
Gola.
The trigger is called Hora.
Yeah, I mean sometimes the gun
revolver
itself is called
itself
ghoda.
is called ghoda.
Yeah, something, yeah.
It's not in Mawali.
You can think of like it's common. Like what's the similarity between
Did you say Jonathan for east?
Januar?
Januar.
Yeah, they have the
The
same.
Januar is
Same,
the
yeah.
west.
Same.
Like now.
January.
Do you have a Farsi word about
Yeah,
it?
John does.
It's very possible. Most of the, if you classify Hindi and Urdu, and if you try to put a thin line between them, the thing that separates between Hindi and Urdu is the use of Sanskrit word versus Farsi words. If you're using more Sanskrit words, it's called the pure Hindi, Khari Hindi. If you're using more Farsi words, that becomes Urdu. And today, I mean, Janwar is colloquial Hindi. It's more related to Urdu. But if you actually have to say it in Hindi, we would call it Pashu or a Jantu. That has come directly from Sanskrit. So that's, I mean, he actually, I'll go to that. I mean, he actually has combined these two languages to Hindi and Urdu. There's another form called Dhakosla or Anmolia, which basically means false adornment. I mean, these doesn't carry any meaning, but these are just words put together. It's the nonsense utterance of the word that doesn't make a complete sense. Some writings of the previous poets, they used to be called Dhakosla, but they have a deep philosophical meaning in them. But most of his creations were just for the sake of creation. Doesn't really carry any meaning. Like there's one very popular that says, "Kheer pakai jatan se charkha diya jala, aya kutta kha gaya tu baiti dhol bajaye." It doesn't mean anything. It just it says that you prepared the kheer, the rice pudding, with much hard work and lit up the lamp, and then came the dog, ate it all, now sit and play the drum. Now the story behind it, there is a story behind it, that Khusro was traveling through the rural India and then he was thirsty, so he stopped by one of the well and there were 4 women who were there. And he asked for water and they recognized that, oh, this is Khusro. So one of the women said, oh, you know this is Khusro and he writes riddles and he writes poems. So he said, okay, I will give you a word and you make them in a poem. So each 4 of them came up with a different word and that's how he combined with this one. And these are all legends. I mean, it's sometimes it's recorded in some of his poems, but these have all become legends. He himself was a linguist. Now we are coming to the actual creation of the languages. He was very proficient in Farsi, Turki, Arabic, and Sanskrit. Khari Boli was his ancient gift. After living in Bengal, Punjab, Awadh, Multan, Devgiri, he has mastered the local dialects and styles. He considered every language as precious as the other. In one of his books, he mentioned, "Na lafze Hindwisht aaj farshi kam," meaning the words of Hindi language are not inferior than Farsi. To establish this fact that the words of Hindi language are not inferior than Farsi, he actually mastered that ghazal that I was telling you, that half of them is in Farsi, half of them is in Hindi.
Okay.
It's called Zihale Miski Mahum Tagaful Doraye Naina Bataye Batiya Kitabe Hijra Nadara Meja Naleho Kahe Lagaye Chatiya. This is very popular, you can just search for it and you can find it. Do not overlook my misery by blastering your eyes and weaving tales. My patience has overbrimmed, or sweetheart, why don't you take it into your own chest? He recognized that the complexity of the Sanskrit language and accepted that Khari Boli was the medium of creating his masterpieces. He did at that time when Farsi was the main medium of literature. During that time, Hindi was not developed as a language to create literature. The form of language was used, this form of language, the Hindi or the Khari Boli, was used only in the cantonments, in the tradings and on the borders. Khusro adopted this language and enriched it with the proper cultural essence and etiquette. Establishing a new created language to create the literature while competing with already establishing Farsi was not an easy task at that time. Modern Hindi, as is spoken today in India, was truly devised by Khusro. He used the Hindi words like Chandan, Katgar and other things in his poetry. A slight diversion, as I was just mentioning, that if you use more Arabic and Farsi words, it becomes Urdu versus Hindi. that is the official language of Pakistan, and at this point of time it's spoken like by 400 million people in the world. He was actually the father of both Hindi and Urdu. Another thing that he basically created poems for every occasion. His dohas. Doha is a poem of 2 lines. You have to complete the meaning by 2 lines, but apart from that, it has a very typical meter in there.
Yeah, it's like a
First-
sonnet.
Yeah, the first part of it has to be 13 meters, second part of it has to be 11 matras. And his dohas are sung till today. There are his songs, like the one on Vasant, the spring, the one on the Panghat, means how to, the one woman is going to bring water from river. And he just describes it, how she goes, what are the difficulties she's faced. But if you go a layer beneath it, you find that it has a very spiritual meaning. He's actually talking about life, how we spend our life in this, when we are alive, and how we go to our end, and how we meet our God. So these poems are sung today. It's there's a dialogue between the 2 married women when she's setting off for her in-laws' house and her mother, and still sung in the northern India when the monsoon season rain comes and when the girl is going to her in-laws' house. There's another one called Babul, which is basically Babul means father in India, where a girl explains how her life was in the in-laws' house. And these have become so much attached to the Indian culture that sometimes people just start singing without even knowing who wrote the song. Give you a little example of the musical contributions. I'm not an expert. These people, they know better than me, but it's considered that Amir Khusro was the inventor of the musical instrument tabla. It's said that before him, we used to only use the mridangam, and he split that into 2 halves so that it can be played right on the table. And the word tabla basically comes from the word table. Yeah. Now going to his last poem.
He actually stole that idea from Persians.
Yeah, actually there was a big debate on that, whether it can be totally attributed to him or
He
other
popularized
people.
it, but it was originally like a few thousand years ago. It used to be one piece with 2 different sounds, a treble and the bass sounds. So it was difficult to put it on lap or something to play it. So it was in Persia, which is Iran and Iraq and all this now. They split it
Right.
so that they can sit
They can
comfortably
sit
and
comfortably,
play.
Right.
But anyway,
So I'm just going to say his last poem, his last doha that he uttered. When Hazrat Nizamuddin passed away, he was away from Delhi for some reason. When he heard heard this sad news, he came back, he rushed back, and he saw the fresh grave of his master. And he rolled on the mud, tore off his clothes in agony, and then came these immortal words, Gori sovi sej par, mukh par dare kesh, chal khusro kar aapne, saaj bhai pardes. For a long time I used to think that she was talking about his beloved. Somebody is sleeping. It literally means the lovely maiden lies finally on the wreath of flowers, her tresses covering her face. O Khusro, turn back now, turn back home now. Dusk has set all in over. If you just, without knowing the meaning, it will just think that somebody is talking about their lover or beloved, that somebody is sleeping. The inner meaning of this doha is the eternal sleep of death. As he left the world, the sad darkness has covered this entire universe. So let's not wait here anymore. Let's go back to where we all belong. Let's leave this mortal world and go to God and his eternal abode of peace. He was never the same after his beef's death. It says within 6 months of Amir Khusro, within the death of 6 months of Nizamuddin Auliya, he also passed away. And as he desired, his mazar is next to Nizamuddin Auliya's mazar. And this is, till today, it is called the Chabutra Yar, it's the pedestrian of the fence. To conclude this piece, I would like to quote Siraz al-Zaman. He was a famous theologian and historian of the Islamic India. So I'd like to conclude this with this quotation of his. He said, "During the past 600 years, India has not produced such an intellectual giant. To tell the truth, even Iran and Greece in the past few millennia have produced only 2 or 4 individuals of such intellect, combining so many qualities in one being, as Amir Khusro possessed. Apart from his many other rare qualities, if we take his poetical genius exclusively, we are astonished at the multiplicity of the varied subject with which he had attained masterly command. Firdausi, Anwari, Sadi, Hafiz, Urfi, and Nazari, although they were undoubtedly intellectual giants of their own subjects and fields of poetry, their achievements were confined only to one particular subject. Firdausi could not go beyond Masnavi. Sadi could not touch Qasida. Anwari had no command over the Masnavi or Ghazal, while Hafiz, Urfi, and Nazari could not get beyond Ghazal. It was, however, Khusro who commanded complete mastery over Ghazal, Masnavi, Qasida, Rubai, beside thousands of other similar poetical compositions on a variety of subjects and common topics. If we calculate the huge number of Khusro's voluminous compositions, we find so much to him in terms of quality in the history of poetry. The number of Firdausi's verses in Shahnama is supposed to be 70,000. Sadi's number of poetical compositions is no more than 100,000, but Amir Khusro's number exceeds more than 4.5 million.
Very, very nice.